Yeah, we were there for an extraordinarily long amount of time to cover the tennis. It was the year that Leighton Hewitt had won, and therefore we were there for some time. So he held his victory press conference on the Monday, and we normally would have flown out, but instead we decided, all the networks, to stay over because it had been exhausting, and we were all due to fly out the next morning, September 11.
And what happened that morning?
Well, it was very different for me because normally when you finish a job you just get out of town, but Paul Atkinson, the cameraman, was from Warrnambool. He'd never been to New York City. I knew that by the time we landed in Los Angeles we would have lost a day getting back to the office, so I suggested that we delay our morning flight and leave in the afternoon. And I said to Paul, "You've never been here," and he said, "Well, what should I do first?" And I said, "Well, I want you to get up really early tomorrow morning. I want you to go downtown, be first in the queue for the World Trade Center, go up to the roof and have a look at where you are." And of course my heart sank when I woke up the next morning and saw what was happening. And I was terrified that Paul had taken my advice and was going to die that day as a consequence.
We have Michelle Stone, 10's correspondent, on the streets of New York at the moment. Michelle, describe the chaos if you can.
Well, Sandra, you can probably hear it in the background. The streets have come to a standstill. There are rescue units and police everywhere, and all I'm seeing is hundreds and hundreds of New Yorkers and standing on the side of the street just absolutely immobilized by this tragedy.
Incredibly, one of our own reporters, Michelle Stone, was in downtown Manhattan when the action started. Michelle's there now. Michelle, tell us what went through your mind as all hell broke loose.
Ron, a lot went through my mind, but my primary motivation was to run like hell. We were less than a kilometre from the towers as they began to collapse. And as the smoke from that collapse began to funnel through up the boulevard like smoke might through a canyon, we were running ahead of smoke and the debris.
This is the wreckage the rescuers call the pile.
Shock. I'm still in shock.
Today the world's media bore witness at Ground Zero for the first time, and they also got the full picture from the air.
It's just overwhelming. It's awesome and it's frightening.
The guts have been torn out here. Concrete and steel carcasses litter the landscape. Smoke still bellows from the wreckage. A thick layer of dust blankets everything. The television pictures so far have failed to prepare these crews for the feeling here at the site. It's both eerie and distressing, and it's hard to imagine that anybody would have any hope of finding survivors in this rubble. But without hope, these men have nothing.
But they've found tons of pockets. And in earthquakes in other countries, they've found people a week later. I mean, in Mexico, I think the one child was almost 2 weeks later. So all those men down there digging, they're waiting for that miracle to pull that one person out of there. And that's how they feel about it.
A singed and torn American flag flies stubbornly over the site. A cloud of grief hangs over the area.
It hurts to be here.
But it helps to post a message of support.
This is for all the people doing the rescuing. And God bless America.
There are messages scratched in the dust on the doors. Shopkeepers are moving back in to reclaim their territory and their life.
But thank God we're here to say the story and that we got out of it, and let's move on. Let's do what we have to do and let the government do what they have to do, and that's it.
Michelle Stone in New York, 10 News.
Also among all those ruins in New York, 10 News reporter Michelle Stone. She's actually found some good arising from this act of evil, the human spirit shining through amid the scenes of death and devastation.
Some very jubilant rescue workers have just shown up, and I just want to introduce one of them. Hi, what's your name? I'm just going to take this off and...
Marvin Cenac, C-E-N-A-C.
Now, Marvin, as if you could stand really close to me, as you came off just now, you were basically all seemed quite jubilant that there had been some people found alive.
Michelle Stone was 10's US correspondent at the time. Her cameraman was Paul Atkinson. This is just some of what they captured that morning.